Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for Pallas, Athena, Retrograde in Libra, which takes place from the 17th of February and finishes on the 30th of May. And about some of the key themes of this particular retrograde ask us to review. But before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that astrology doesn't control our lives. It gives us a framework to help us understand what kind of areas of growth are available for us to be working with at the moment. It helps us to understand what's unfolding collectively. But from there, it's up to us to determine how we best use the insights that it offers, and it's up to us to actually take action within our own lives in order to move things forward. If we don't participate with the process, then we don't make the most of the opportunities that are presented to us, because they don't happen automatically. We actually have to participate in the process in order to grow from it. Now, in terms of Pallas Athena retrograde, if you're not familiar with Pallas Athena, Pallas is one of the goddess asteroids, the others being Ceres, Vesta and Juno. Pallas Athena is associated with wisdom, associated with politics and associated with healing. And she also deals with strategy. Now, with Pallas Athena being in Libra, the area of wisdom that we're focusing on at this time is balance, and the kind of politics that Pallas deals with through Libra is about diplomacy. It's seeing how can we deal with things in a more diplomatic manner, and how can we seek compromises which are based on a win-win solution rather than looking for any solution to try and create an artificial peace. Because Libra is all about peace and harmony, as it were, but it does this through balance, through bringing two sides of the same equation together and holding them in balance with one another. So it doesn't transform them as such, but it helps acknowledge both sides and treat them equally. So there's a degree of objectivity required in that respect. But one of the key issues that can arise with Libra is if we try to make peace happen on the outside or balance happen externally, we haven't created it on the inside. So if we're out of balance internally, it will always reflect to us externally as well. So, and with Pallas being about strategy, it's looking at how do we approach trying to establish balance and order in our lives. Are we looking for it externally, so trying to make it happen even if it means doing it at the cost of ourselves? Or are we trying to create some kind of inner balance within us so that it can then radiate outwards? Because true balance operates by the old natural law of as within, so without. So if we want to have peace and harmony in our external relationships, it requires that we create that peace and harmony on the inside. But one of the key areas of conflict that Pallas also represents is the split between the head and the heart, between the mind and the emotions, if you like. And it's that on the one hand there's a kind of pressure or perception pressure that especially for women, if they want to be successful, they can't also have a family at the same time. This is one of the kind of social pressures. There's also the split between for men, there could be this artistic pressure, but due to the pressure to be a certain way in order to seem masculine, then these creative impulses, because Pallas deals with creative energy and liberating it from by breaking down structures, we can also be that suppression of that innate creativity in order to appear more macho, as it were. So these are some of the things that Pallas Athena retrograde may bring up. It's where do we have this split between the head and the heart? It's about healing it. It's bringing the yin and the yang together. So everything operates through the balancing of those two opposites, of masculine and feminine principles. And if we want to have balanced and healthy relationships with each other, we have to have a balance, or that harmonious balance between the inner feminine and inner masculine, so the two of them complement one another rather than antagonise, as it were. So it's rather than polarising the masculine and feminine, it's trying to balance them and unite them together the way we see in the symbol of the Tao. So yin and yang working together in perfect harmony, and ideally we want to be in the centre of that so that the masculine and feminine are balanced in all directions, as it were. And if we have that inner balance within us, we can then radiate it outwardly, and it's through creating that internal peace and recognising the need to reconcile opposites rather than judge anything that's different to who we are, that peace can start to form. So it's about that reconciliation process and being willing to listen to perspectives that differ from our own, being willing to listen to perspectives that come from the opposite viewpoint to how we generally see things. And it's trying to move things back towards that central ground, because as we've seen, there's been a lot of polarising going on, especially last year. Pallas Athena, to some extent, gives us an opportunity to try and reconcile that. It's to see that wisdom of incorporating both sides in an argument, to bring the two together and get them to work in unison rather than fighting against one another. And another one is obviously between the higher and lower self. So it's embracing the ego rather than judging it, but seeking to bring it into balance with the higher self. So make sure that the ego itself is acknowledged and embraced, but make sure that it's also in right relationship. So, and to some extent, Libra is also about that, the whole cause and effect. So Aries is the cause, if you like, and Libra shows us the effects of it. So if we don't like what we're seeing around us, then we need to go look at the opposite sign, Aries, and see what actions are we taking that is leading to these results, and both at a personal level and also collective. What actions are we doing that's causing this severe imbalance, this lack of justice, if you like, and this lack of peace and harmony? Because it's only by identifying the root cause of something that the solution that brings true balance and true harmony into being. Because if we just try and treat the symptoms, or try and ignore certain elements, or avoid taking responsibility for the actions that we take that lead to the imbalances, then we might achieve some semblance of balance and harmony externally, but at what cost? Are we staying true to who we are? Are we being honest with people about who we are? Are we just wearing a whole variety of masks and presenting different faces to different people, to the point where, yeah, sure, it's peaceful in those relationships of whatever nature the relationship is, but we're not being true to who we are? Is that done at the cost of the true self? And a healthy relationship requires that both parties be able to be who they are, that the true self is the basis of the relationship to one another. Because obviously everything operates within relationships. There's nothing is truly isolated. Incidents which may seem isolated will be linked to something else. So even if the causes are hidden, everything is still interconnected. And Libra is the beginning of understanding that everything, for every action there's an equal opposite reaction, for every effect there's a cause, and it may be a systemic issue, it may be a small part that's not out of balance, but if we want balance, peace and justice to prevail, as it were, then it requires that we take ownership of our own imbalances, that we make sure that we work within ourselves and look to create an internal harmony. So sometimes there are certain exercises which you can potentially do, for example, so yoga looks at bringing balance, some forms of martial arts are physical disciplines that try to facilitate that internal balance, but also being willing to set aside any prejudices that we have or any personal biases, and be willing to embrace information from the opposing perspective and see, is there an element of truth to it? So it's embracing the objectivity of Libra, so not allowing emotions to cloud the issue, and see, is there any truth to the opposing point of view that we need to embrace in order to find that true middle ground that will enable both sides to be honoured equally and achieve some kind of common unity that will allow healthy relationships to form between people, and to put aside these issues that drive us to maintain a degree of separation from one another. So with Pallas Athena, it's addressing our strategies for creating balance in our own lives, and if everything that we do is based on trying to maintain an external balance, then we need to remedy that by looking at where we are out of balance within ourselves, where is our light and our shadow out of balance, where we're rejecting parts of ourselves through projection that means that we're relying on other people to be the hooks for our projections, and if that person's not there, we may think we don't have an issue, but actually that person is mirroring back something because they're comfortable with that part of themselves that we see mirrored in them, but we're not comfortable about that same part within us. So part of it is about slowing down and going into our one-on-one interaction with one another and seeing what is this person teaching me about myself, as it were. Obviously, some instances we may feel inspired and upbeat in someone's presence because that person is showing us the higher manifestations of some of our own untapped potential. Likewise, other people may instantly seem to hit a nerve without even intending to. There may be something about them that jars us the wrong way. And if the person hasn't actually done anything to us yet, it's just something about that person seems to innately rub us the wrong way or pushes a nerve on us, then it's time to look at us, be honest about ourselves, and identify what is the specific element about the other person that is rubbing us the wrong way, and then looking at, well, is this something that I'm guilty of doing, and am I able to acknowledge that and accept that that's also something that I do as well, and then look to reconcile it by making peace with it. Because if we try to resist it and we keep trying to project it, it will continue to persist, and the interactions that highlight it will seem to get more and more intense, as it were, until we're willing to grow up and take responsibility for it. So if we want to make the most of Pallas, Athena, Retrograde and Libra, part of it is recognising that each person is a mirror for who we are. Each interaction we have is an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, whether it be the positive side or negative side, because each person is a mirror. Each one of us mirrors back qualities of the other, whether we're aware of it or not, and our closest relationships are generally the strongest reflection of who we are. So it's being honest with ourselves about what are we projecting onto other people to avoid dealing with it, and how can we instead go within ourselves and meet that same issue internally and bring it into balance with our positive qualities. Because we can create that inner peace and inner harmony to the point that we're no longer triggered by external events or external encounters, then we radiate that level of peace and harmony outwards because we've made peace with ourselves and made peace with our shadow. And then this enables true peace and true balance to emerge in relationship dynamics. And if we can create that internal balance within us, then we can move through the world in an energy of peace, and we're no longer triggered by anything that happens around us. We've made peace with ourselves, and we're no longer fighting against our own natures. We're now embraced each element, and we're able to operate smoothly. We treat ourselves with love rather than judgment. We don't reject any parts of ourselves, and through this, the healing nature of balancing the yin and yang can be achieved, and balancing our psyches becomes the end result, as it were. So our minds are balanced, our head and our hearts are balanced together, so there's no longer fighting between reason and emotions. The two go hand in hand because emotions are tied to the subconscious and intuition, so bringing intuition and reason together allows for greater mental power, as it were, because Libra is an air sign, so it is inherently to do with the mind. And it's also seeing, by creating that inner balance between the left and right parts of ourselves, that deeper or stronger capacity to achieve things is unlocked. And it's also that inner harmony then enables us to more readily work in cooperation with other people, and to create a spirit of harmony in all our one-to-one relationships, as well as within any community environments that we happen to be a part of. So that's the useful guide for Pallas Athena retrograde in Libra. It's quite a bit to take on board, but the main point is that if we want to achieve some kind of balance, harmony and justice externally, we have to first create it on the inside. Because if we're out of balance inside ourselves, how can we really expect balance to materialise in the world? Because everything we see outside of ourselves is a mirror of what's going on internally, the microcosm and the microcosm. So if we want the two to line up in a way that empowers us, that enables peace and love to dominate, then we have to create it on the inside first and live it out in our own lives. This then enables it to propagate outwards and radiate out into the world, so that other people can be drawn into the energy of peace and balance. But we have to take responsibility for creating it on ourselves first. Otherwise, how can we realistically expect it to happen externally, and by what right do we have to complain about it if we're not willing to do the work ourselves? So I hope it's useful guide for Pallas in retrograde. May it bring you many blessings and many insights and a greater degree of inner peace and balance. Take care and be blessed.